The fluorescent lights hummed, casting a harsh glow over plastic tables and a sticky floor. The air was thick with the smell of old grease and cheap disinfectant. It was late morning, but the place was mostly empty except for a few scattered customers. At the counter, Sarah, in her 30s, tired but kind eyes in her worn uniform, meticulously wiped down the already clean countertop, her movements automatic. She'd been there too long, seen too much. She glanced up at the menu board, then subtly over to a booth in the corner. There, Arthur, in his 60s, gaunt face, tattered but clean coat, a faded military cap, sat hunched over. He hadn't touched the small cup of water in front of him. His eyes were fixed on the large, colorful photos of burgers and fries, a silent, profound hunger etched on his face. He was trying not to be noticed, but his desperation was palpable. Sarah's gaze softened. She knew Arthur. He came in sometimes, always asked for water, sometimes a napkin. Never food. Her heart ached for him. She remembered the faded cap, the way he carried himself despite the weariness. A veteran. Behind her, the office door swung open with a sharp thwack. Mr. Henderson, in his 50s, slick-back hair, cheap suit, a perpetual sneer, emerged, his voice immediately cutting through the quiet. "Sarah. A word. My office. Now." Sarah's shoulders tensed almost imperceptibly. She nodded, dropped her rag, and followed him, her gaze lingering on Arthur for a second too long. Arthur shrank further into the booth. What if one simple act of kindness could shatter a life and then rebuild it in unimaginable ways? Prepare to witness the incredible story of Sarah, a woman whose compassion cost her everything, only for fate to reveal a twist no one saw coming. Subscribe now and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss a single, breathtaking moment of what's about to unfold. The office was small, cluttered, and reeked of stale coffee. Henderson sat behind a messy desk, tapping a pen impatiently. "I've received another complaint, Sarah. About you." Sarah stood, composed, though a flicker of dread passed through her eyes. "What kind of complaint, Mr. Henderson?" Henderson scoffed, leaning back. "The kind that costs this establishment money, Sarah. The kind that violates company policy. Again. Last week, it was that extra fry you accidentally dropped in the kid's bag. The week before, an expired coupon you honored. You think I don't see these things? I'm always careful with inventory and policy, sir." Henderson slammed the pen down. "Don't play dumb with me, Sarah. Today, a customer reported you. Said you gave free food to that bum in the corner." Sarah's breath caught. She glanced towards the frosted glass of the office door, as if she could see Arthur. "He's a veteran, Mr. Henderson. And he was hungry. I saw him." Henderson leaned forward, his voice lowering but gaining intensity. "I don't care if he's the Queen of England. Our policy is clear. No free food. No exceptions. We run a business, not a charity. This is your third strike, Sarah. And frankly, your bleeding heart is becoming a liability." He pushed a form across the desk, already filled out. "I'm letting you go. Effective immediately." Sarah stared at the termination paper, her jaw tightening. Not angry, not defeated, but a deep, simmering disappointment. Her eyes lost their softness, replaced by a quiet, steely resolve. It wasn't just about the job. It was about what it represented. "So, that's it? For giving a hungry man a meal?" Henderson waved a dismissive hand. "For violating company policy. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Security will escort you to retrieve your belongings." Sarah said nothing more. She simply turned and walked out of the office, head held high, though her hands were clenched into fists at her sides. She walked past the counter, past the remaining customers, past the empty booths, her gaze not once wavering to Arthur's corner. She didn't want to embarrass him. Just as she reached the main entrance, about to push open the glass doors and step out into the bright, unforgiving daylight, the sound of heavy boots on tile echoed through the restaurant. The doors swung inwards, not out, and standing in the frame were 4 Marines, in their 20s or 30s, impeccably dressed in dress blues, towering figures, their faces unreadable. Their presence was immediate, imposing, and completely unexpected in the mundane setting. The fluorescent lights seemed to dim around them. They scanned the room, their eyes moving with practiced precision. One of them, a staff sergeant with a stern but focused expression, locked eyes with Sarah. The atmosphere in the restaurant shifted. The few customers stopped chewing. Henderson, who had been smugly watching Sarah's exit, froze, his smirk dissolving into a look of bewildered apprehension. The staff sergeant took one deliberate step into the restaurant. His voice was deep, calm, but carried an undeniable authority that silenced the room. "We're here for the manager. And for the woman who just served a meal to Sergeant Arthur Jenkins." Mr. Henderson spluttered, finding his voice. "Excuse me? Who are you?" "This is a private establishment, and that woman was just terminated for violating company policy." The staff sergeant didn't even glance at Henderson. His gaze remained fixed on Sarah, a silent question in his eyes. Sarah, for her part, simply watched, a faint, almost imperceptible hint of a smile playing on her lips. She wasn't smiling in amusement, but in a quiet confirmation of something she already knew. The staff sergeant then turned his attention to Mr. Henderson, his voice unwavering. "This isn't a suggestion, sir. We're here on official business." He took another step forward, and the 3 other Marines fanned out slightly, their presence filling the small restaurant. Their stern faces and rigid postures left no doubt about their authority. Henderson, visibly unnerved, stammered. Official business? What kind of business? She just gave away company food." The staff sergeant ignored him again, his eyes sweeping the room, then landing on Arthur, still hunched in the booth. His expression softened infinitesimally. "Sergeant Jenkins," he said, his voice carrying a warmth that hadn't been present before. "You with us?" Arthur slowly looked up, his eyes widening as he recognized the uniforms. A flicker of something akin to pride, mixed with bewilderment, crossed his face. He mumbled a quiet, "Yes, Staff Sergeant." The staff sergeant nodded, then turned back to Henderson, his voice now colder, sharper. "Sergeant Arthur Jenkins served this country for 30 years. He's a decorated combat veteran. And this woman," he gestured to Sarah, "provided him with a meal out of human decency, when your establishment would not." Henderson tried to interrupt, but policy doesn't supersede humanity, Mr. Henderson, one of the other Marines, a younger corporal, interjected, his voice surprisingly firm. The staff sergeant held up a hand, silencing his subordinate, his attention fully back on Henderson. "We're not here to debate your corporate ethics, sir. We're here because of a security breach." Sergeant Jenkins, unbeknownst to him, was carrying something of extreme national importance. And thanks to a direct order from a very high level, he was to be provided with sustenance and care wherever he stopped, by anyone with clearance. Henderson's face went pale. "Security breach? What are you talking about?" "The item Sergeant Jenkins was carrying is sensitive. Its location was compromised. Our intelligence indicated he would seek refuge in the nearest establishment, and that anyone showing him kindness would be flagged for immediate assistance and protection." The staff sergeant's eyes bore into Henderson. "You, Mr. Henderson, were not flagged for kindness. This woman was." He turned back to Sarah, his expression unreadable. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us. Your act of compassion has inadvertently put you in a very sensitive position. There are people who want what Sergeant Jenkins was carrying, and they're looking for anyone who might have interacted with him." Sarah, who had been listening intently, finally spoke, her voice calm and steady. "I understand." She looked towards Arthur, who was now slowly rising from his booth, looking a little stronger, a little less lost. "Is he safe now?" "He is," the staff sergeant confirmed. "And he's coming with us. Both of you. Immediately." Without another word, the staff sergeant motioned to two of the Marines. They moved quickly and professionally to Arthur, gently guiding him towards the door. Arthur looked back at Sarah, a silent thanks in his eyes. The staff sergeant turned to Sarah again, his gaze piercing. "There's no time for questions now. Your cooperation is paramount. Your life, and potentially the lives of others, depend on it." Sarah didn't hesitate. She simply nodded and walked towards the door, the Marines forming a protective semicircle around her and Arthur. As she passed Mr. Henderson, who stood frozen, utterly speechless and terrified, she didn't even spare him a glance. Her tired eyes now held a new, formidable glint. She had been fired for helping a hungry veteran, but now, a completely different world had just opened up. They exited the restaurant, the heavy glass doors swinging shut behind them, leaving Mr. Henderson alone in the sudden, eerie quiet of his fast food kingdom. Outside, a black, unmarked SUV was waiting, engine running. The future, for Sarah, had just become very uncertain, and infinitely more dangerous. Before we dive into Sarah's incredible story, make sure you're subscribed to our channel and have notifications turned on. You won't want to miss how one act of kindness changes everything.